Good afternoon, class. We're going to work on some equations today, but we're going to make up equations and move variables around. So we're going to have multiple variables in our equation today. And we're going to be dealing with formulas as well that are predefined. So here are four different formulas. And what we're going to do is just go through and identify which formula matches which description down here for the purpose of, well, let me undo that. Sorry about that. For purpose of using them later on in this lesson. C equals 2 pi r should look familiar to you, and that has to do with a circle. So anytime you're dealing with pi, this is the symbol pi, which you should know is 3.14 approximately. And this has to do with a circle. So that would be number 3 here. So A is going to be number 3. Now we'll go on to P equals 2L plus 2W. Well, the P is referring to a perimeter. L is the length, and the W is the width, and this is the perimeter of a rectangle. So B is number 1. C, A equals 1/2 B times H. Well, the B is standing for the base, and H is height, and this A represents area, and this is for the triangle. So C is number 2. And the last one, C equals 5/9 parentheses F minus 32, is referring to temperature in Fahrenheit and Celsius, and that's actually a conversion formula. You don't have to remember that, but it is that. So D is for the temperature in degrees Celsius, and that's a converting it from Fahrenheit. So we're going to work on rewriting equations, and to rewrite an equation that has multiple variables in them, we're going to be given a variable, m, that they're going to ask for us to solve for. So we want to get this m all by itself. That's the first thing we want to do. To do that, we're going to rewrite the equation just like we normally would, except for this variable is going to be part of our answer, this n. So in order to get the m by itself, we first have to undo the subtraction. So we would add 5n to both sides to get 2m equals. Now the problem with this is we can't actually add 5n to 4, so we're just going to write it as a sum. So we're just rewriting the equation. We're not going to actually solve for anything yet. After we have now gotten the 5n to the other side, we can divide by 2. So we end up with m equals 4 plus 5n all over 2. Now, there is something about fractions that we talked about, and it's actually a grouping. And when we want to simplify a grouping, we distribute. Well, in this case, we're going to take the 2, and we're going to divide both the 4 and the 5 to have a simplified answer. So we're just basically distributing the dividing by 2 to both of these. So rather than do it as a complete division, we're going to divide each one individually. So we get 2. Leave this as a fraction. A fraction is perfectly acceptable. So here is the rewritten equation solving for m. So I'm going to rewrite it up here because I'm going to use it. I'm just rewriting it. 2 plus 5/2 n is the same thing as 5/2 n plus 2. Anyways, we're going to use it because they're going to give us some information in this problem. They're going to say when n equals -2, let's go through and solve and see what m could equal. So in this case, we need to put -2 in for n. So 5/2 times -2 is going to be -5 plus 2. And we get m equals -3. So we're going to do the same thing now. We're going to do the same thing with n equals 0. So we go into here and we actually, I'm just going to erase this and redo the problem with, so we had m equals -3 for this one. So for n equals -2, we got -3. for 0, so we're going to put 0 in now. And 5/2 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is going to be 2. So we get 2. Now we're going to put 2 in here for n. So 5/2 times 2 plus 2. And if I do 5/2 times 2, I'm going to get 5. If I add 2, I get 7. So 7 is associated with 2. So what we've done here is we rewrote the equation and then substituted to get answers. Now we're going to be given multiple variables, and we want you to solve for x in this one. So here's our x that we need to get by itself. To do that, we're going to have to take the r and move it to the other side. So we're going to subtract r from both sides of this equation. That gets rid of it on the right side. Very similar to the last problem, we can't actually subtract this, but we can write it as a subtraction problem. So we're left with just px. To get x by itself, because it's being multiplied, we're going to divide by p. So there's two different ways we can write the answer. We can write it as negative t minus r all divided by p. Notice I put the division problem over the whole thing. Or we could do x equals negative t divided by p minus r divided by p. So we could separate it into two problems. We'll be doing some more of those in class, so if you have a question on that, make sure you ask them. Now for the formula part of it. Here's a key concept that you could add to your key concept sheet that has to do with certain formulas that you'll be working with in the exercise problems tomorrow. So all of these formulas here represent different formulas for, in this case, rectangles, circles, triangles, and then a distance traveled, which we're going to use in an example in just a moment, and then temperature. So you can go ahead and pause this if you need to write those down. So we're going to be dealing with a triangle here. So what is the height of a triangle that has an area of 24 square inches is unit? That's a unit. Okay, we're not actually squaring anything, it's just a unit, and a base with a length of 8 inches. So we have to use the triangle area formula, which you could have pulled off of that last slide, and then we're going to substitute in the given information. Well, 24 is the area, and they're telling us that the base length is 8, so we can actually put that in and then solve for the height. So to do that, we need to take half of 8, which is 4. So we're just simplifying. And now to isolate the h, we divide by 4, and we get h equals 6. So that would be the height of that triangle. The next formula we're going to work with is a distance formula. And the distance formula is d equals r times t, where r has to do with the rate or speed, and t is the time. So we can rewrite the formula by solving for either t and get d over r, or solve for r and get d over t. So it just depends on what we're trying to find. So in this case, we're talking about the Pacific gray whales migrate annually from the waters near Alaska to waters near the Baja California, Mexico, and back. The whales travel a distance of about 5,000 miles, so that's our distance each way, and they tell us that they can travel 91 miles per day. So we want to know how many days does it take for them to travel this 5,000 miles. So we're going to use the distance formula, d equals r times t, and we're going to substitute in our given information. So 5,000 equals, and they give us the rate, this is our speed, of 91 times t. So to solve, we're just going to divide by the rate to get 5,000 divided by 91, and we get a time of 54.9, or since we're talking about days here, we should round this. It's going to take 55 days traveling at that rate. So then we'll be doing some more problems very similar to this in class. Go ahead and answer the questions after the video and bring your notes to class with any questions.